Oh no, the camera wasn't recording. Oh, well, I'm going to record from here. I'm not sure if the first half of this tutorial recorded or not. Oh, I can't check right now. I have to check at the end. Ah! Oh, I really hope it's recorded. I think I'm going to go for the square image. I'm going to do, I think, on this, Abby's little snippet technique, where she just literally snips tiny pieces out of the whole side. Well, this could be a little bit on the backward side, this video, because it looks like there's a possibility I might have to record the first bit again, because it possibly didn't record at all. I had to press record again, so it, at the very least, it stopped recording. I quite like this effect. Abby shows it very well in her tutorial. Abby makes some quite nice large incisions up the side of her image, but this is obviously a very small picture, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just distress this a little bit more with the edge of my scissors. Oh, I'm really worried now that this hasn't recorded. So I've inked that one, I haven't inked this yet, so just going to very quickly ink this quite dramatically, so it's quite dark. When I'm collaging things like envelopes and tags, I tend to keep them quite simple. I use a lot of tea stain paper, a lot of music paper, dictionary paper, that kind of thing. But a couple of these I have done a little bit more than I normally would, which I like. I do like. I'm usually a less is more kind of person. But, you know, it's nice to try something different every now and then. So let's have a look what have we got. I'm not sure if I want that on the top or underneath yet. Got a little bit of this. I'm not sure if I want any lace in here. Do I? Maybe I do. I've got a little bit of lace along there. I'm going to put a seal on this, so I'm not going to do that right now. So just for quick, so you'll, oh, do I want that on the top or the bottom? I'm sorry, maybe I should have planned all of this out before I brought you here today. Yeah, I think I want the plain paper on the top. So I'm going to go around with my glue. This Fabri-Tac is marvellous. I do love it. Okay, you have that there. Like I said, I'm kind of not thinking about this as much as I have on the others because I don't want to keep you for hours, and I'm not, I don't know, I can't edit videos particularly. I have on a couple of occasions, but they have taken me longer to edit them than they have for me to make the video in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to put that a little bit over this side. I'm assuming, yep, I'm trying to make sure I'm in frame and realised I'm very far over that side. Right, I'm going to pop a little bit of cheesecloth, and again I'm not going to put too much glue down because the glue on the image, come on that way. Oh, I'm going to have to change my board for next time. Yeah. You could put cheesecloth behind the whole image, and I've done that on others, so I can show you that too. So, yeah. Now we're going to have a little bit of interest at the top in a minute, so we're just going to leave that at that for now. So we've got a kind of basic image, a basic collage on our envelope. So now we need to move on to the next stage, which is the hangy tag, the technical term. I'm just going to ink this. And this one, I think I'm not quite sure what we're going to put on this one. Maybe, oh, I think I have an idea. So, just going to ink that around the edge, and we're going to, we've got any scraps of cheesecloth. I'm going to cut a little scrap off here. I'm really worried now. I'm trying not to rush because I want to check that there is a part 1. So what I've got in here is there's a kind of a little bit of red in here, pinky red. I've got another one. I think that one will go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate my marvellous fussy cutting skills and just very, very quickly cut out this butterfly because it's got a little bit of red in, pinky red, which will complement the dress on that for our hangy tag. So this is me fussy cutting, and you all know how much I love fussy cutting. This came from the Ladybird book of butterflies and moths. I was asked a couple of times on Instagram where the butterflies came from that I'd cut out, and they came from that book. I've got a couple of other books that I've been cutting flowers out of, and unfortunately I've used the cover, so I don't have the cover anymore to be able to tell you what the book is called. But I've recently, well yesterday, went and got myself some wallpaper samples from a local DIY store, and one of them had butterflies on there, kind of watercolour butterflies. So I'm going to fussy cut those out. So you don't have to necessarily look in the places that you think. They don't have to come from books. I've seen some brilliant wrapping paper too in loads of places which have images that could be fussy cut out. So, you know, don't just look at books. I'm just going to darken that area in there. Yeah, don't just look at books. Look at other things as well, you know, because there's always, yeah, happy with that. So I'm just going to a little bit of the edges on this one. And I'm happy for the cheesecloth to hang over the edge, as I am the butterfly. So I'm not going to put glue right to the very edge of the wing. Let me just make sure there we go. Which I think I just did, didn't I? Yeah, that's okay. Now, I demonstrate my big bite skills, or lack of them. I'm going for the small hole because I am not... Am I going to put an eyelet on this one? No, I'm going to use... Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to try and line this up. And what I do now is I just bring the punch down and make sure I'm happy with it before I actually punch my hole. Lesson learnt. I still want to use the wax seal on this. Now I'm not going to use... I'm going to use this, I think. This is some embroidery thread that I, this particular one I used on another envelope earlier. So I've already, I've dragged this through my distress ink because it was too red, too bright. So I'm going to pull that through. I'm going to wrap the thread. I want my wax seal over here, so I'm going to wrap this round and hopefully it will wrap twice. I think it will if I pull it a little bit further that way. These are all the things that you kind of do off camera and nobody ever sees, and then you get on camera, see, and you've got cheesecloth all glued to my fingers. Oh, I do try to look professional. I did teach for a living for quite a long time. Not that you'd believe it. There we go. So we have that. Now since we've got a bit of a cheesecloth theme, I think I might actually pop a little bit of cheesecloth under this as well. Now do I want it underneath or over the top? I don't need to worry about having this glued down in any way, although you can glue it. I'm going to show you some alternatives to the wax seal shortly. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. I'm leaving the butterfly over there. I'm not going to cover her face permanently, but we've now got our 2 wraps of our thread. So okay, now I've got reasonably confident with this, but I'm now going to do it on camera so you can guarantee it's going to go horribly wrong. At least I won't burn anything because I've got my tempered glass mat. So I'm using the tree stamp, or should I use the T? I've got 3. I've got the Tree of Life, I've got a T for my initial, and I've also got a skull, which was the first one I bought, which I will show you something I've made with that shortly. So basically you just let the wax do nothing because it goes out. Okay, set that down for a minute. I've got some of those, I call them little saucepans. They're not saucepans, they're proper little kind of little spoons, I suppose, that you can melt the wax in, but I find I'm not very good at using that, so I don't anymore. Plus I don't like cleaning them because once the wax has cooled, there's probably an easy way, but I just spend like half an hour scraping it out and it takes way too long, and I don't have half an hour to scrape wax out of a spoon. I don't know about you, but I don't. This particular wax is very runny when it melts. I have a solid red and I have a solid black, and they are much thicker when they melt, and it's a little bit kind of harder to judge with those how long to leave the seal on. I've found I've had to leave it on slightly longer than I do with this one. This wax, the red one and the black one, I bought from the place I now work, so can't really say their name, with the skull stamp. I wasn't working there when I bought it. And this one came from AliExpress, and obviously I don't know what it means in terms of quality, but I find them similar, but just you have to leave the other one on a bit longer. So this is kind of seeping out in between the string, which is fine, and you just leave it on. You don't need to put any pressure on it, and just tilt it, and if it feels like it's moving away, jobs are good and you're done. Now you can see this is not perfect. Please focus. Please focus. There we go. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I've done to some of the others. We can obviously now go back to kind of normal working position. I'm just going to trim these a little bit, and I'm going to bring my butterfly hangy tag over here. Now I'm quite pleased with that. There's obviously a lot more you can do. You can stamp around the edges, which I'll show you some of them that I've done. But what I am going to show you how to do, there's lots of posh ways of doing this with two kinds of wax. The same way that I did the embossing, you can take an oil pastel and just highlight areas of your raised wax. And I don't know if you can see, but that comes up quite nicely. And what I'm also going to do to the envelopes is just pop a little bit of wax on the corners, just maybe highlight a few little bits here and there. I tend to go heavier on the opposite corners, so that kind of balances, and then just a little bit here and there. I just headbutted the camera, I hope that didn't move. Okay, and what I'm also going to do is get up a couple of bit of areas there. Okay. Along. And you can use, again, you can use anything you want to do this. It doesn't have to be a pastel, this is just what I had fairly close at hand. A bit around there as well, I think. Just to give it a little bit more interest. So, there we go. There is our envelope. So, you'll be pleased to hear this has taken quite a long time, so I'm not going to do a third one. But what I have done is I have kind of inked up. This one I inked and then wet. These ones are just inked, general inked with the distress ink. But that is a very nice, I think that's a very nice envelope. And this then works to kind of hold your envelope closed. You can still undo it. You can still take this out. But we have our hangy tag envelopes. So I'm just going to very quickly show you some of the others that I have been working on. I might need to stand for this so I can make sure they are in the frame. So this one I've got collage with some fabric and some music paper, the image is behind. And if you don't have a wax seal, what I've done this time is I've hung the tag on the thread, and then I have glued the thread behind the embellishment. So I then have this one, which I actually made this envelope with some tea stain paper, and I've done some oxide inking and made this envelope using I used my envelope punch, But again, I've used the image, and instead of a tag, this one I have a little dragonfly hanging from. This one kind of went a little bit, I love this envelope. This is from MrsCogs Gypsy Kit, which I printed and haven't yet used. So this is an envelope I made using music paper. But what I did was I embellished the flap on this one. So if you wanted to stick it into a journal, you could do. So I've embellished the flap. I've also reinforced and punched a hole, and I've got a little garment pin with some bells. And also this one is a pocket. So I actually love that, how that one turned out. This one I have used the seal, and I've used some silver to kind of emphasise different areas. And we've got our hangy tag, and that's from MrsCogs Flowering Yellow in the Garden, and this is the wording that came from her Flowering Trees kit. So that's another one. I'll show you this one. This one, the stamp didn't quite, I didn't quite put enough wax on, so that shows you it still looks good even though it's not perfect. And this one I've done some gold on, and the hangy tag on this one is closer to the bottom, but similar collage. This one, if you don't have a wax seal, again, all I've done is I've tied the embroidery floss into a bow, and I've just put a tiny dab of glue behind there to hold that into place. And this hangy tag has a fussy cut envelope and a little bit of music paper and some cheesecloth. That's the one I'm going to show you last. This is a simple one I made using the envelope punch board with the wax paper. This one, I was really pleased with this one too. This is another hangy tag, but using the glassine paper. And again, if you don't have a stamp, I've just used a bit of cheesecloth and a button to hold the hangy tag in place, and these are just fussy cut butterflies. And then this one I made for my other half. I've used my black wax and the skull. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. You can't quite pick up the detail, I don't think. But this one I've used some black floss, embroidery floss, the black wax, and I have used silver for the accent on this one. So there's a few ideas for you. We could have gone back and done, which I may well do, put a little hangy tag here, because I think this space is just perfect for a little hanging tag. So those are the envelopes we've made today, and I hope I've recorded the first half of this, and I will see you soon, probably tomorrow afternoon with my lovely happy mail. See you later. Thanks. Bye.